Okay.
Every time you,
So welcome to the board meeting of the Teachers Retirement System for November 19th, 2020. I'm going to start by calling the roll. John Adler,
I am here.
Thomas Brown,
here,
Natalie Green Giles.
She's not here. She was called away last minute.
Okay. David Gazansky,
present,
Russell Buckley,
Here.
Deborah Penny,
Here.
and Susanna Vickers.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. So the next item on the agenda is TRS operations, and Kavita Kanwar will give us that update.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Members have been notified that their account statements for the third quarter of 2020 are now available. On November 9th, quarterly account statements were posted on our website for approximately 125,000 members who are currently in service or on leave. On October 30th, the TDA quarterly statements were posted online for approximately 59,000 members who have deferred TDA accounts. And on October 30th, the TDA quarterly statements for the TDAB beneficiary participants were mailed to the population of approximately 1,200 members or beneficiaries. The fall 2020 issues of our member newsletter were published in October. In-service news has been mailed to our non-retired members, and benefit reports have been mailed out to our retirees. During November, TRS is conducting an electronic awareness campaign to members about our TDA program. We are emailing about 223,000 targeted messages to brand new TRS members, existing members who are not investing in TDA, and members who have recently stopped making their 3% pension contributions under Chapter 126. All messages have the goal of promoting participation in the TDA program. Thank you.
Thanks, Kavita.
Kavita, I'm sorry, could you mail that to us electronically?
Sure, will do. Yes.
Thanks, Kavita, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. And the first item on the Executive Director's Report is the next meeting. And it has been suggested that the next regular meeting of the Teachers Retirement Board will be held on the third Thursday of the month. December 17th, 2020. So we should all mark our calendars. Okay. Next is a resolution on the modification to the administrative budget of the fiscal year 2021. Where?
Please skip to the resolve.
Thank you. Resolve that the board directs the executive director to identify and implement a reduction to the TRS agency budget for fiscal year 2021 in the amount comparable to the savings that would have been achieved through the MBO 2020/2, and that such reduction shall be applied to the portion of the budget attributable to the employer, and be it further resolved that the executive director is hereby authorized and directed to take any action that may be necessary to effectuate this resolution.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve this modification to the administrative budget for fiscal year 2021?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzansky. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
The next resolution is record retention schedule, LGS-1.
Please skip to the resolve.
Resolve that the TRS hereby adopts the retention and disposition schedule for the New York Local Government Records, LGS-1, and be it further resolved that the executive director is hereby authorized to take any action necessary to effectuate this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the record retention schedule?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
The next resolution is approval of the amendment to the rules and regulations of the Board of Education Retirement System.
Please skip to the resolved.
Resolved that the TRS Board approves the amendment to the Section 5A of the Borough's Rules and Regulations to provide for, 1, an extension of the deadline to file nomination petitions for the office of employee member of the Retirement Board in the event the Executive Director of Boroughs is unable to certify at least 2 nomination petitions, and 2, a revision of the formal requirements of such nominating petitions.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to the rules of regulations of the Board of Retirement System?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Buckley. All those in, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the calendar. So I have to just get to my calendar. Is the calendar on here, Liz? I hope she didn't go away.
Oh, no, it's there. It's under
Which
calendar.
one is it?
It says calendar items.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It says calendar items.
I don't have a document that says calendar items on the materials you sent to me.
It says November items.
Yes.
I don't have-
November
oh,
items
okay, thank you.
2020.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first item on the calendar is the matter of the approval of the minutes for the October 1st, 2020 investment meeting and the October 15th, 2020 board meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a motion
Oh,
to
yes.
approve the October 1st investment meeting and October 15th board meeting minutes? Mr.
So
Adler,
moved.
thank you very much. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion?
I'm gonna stop.
Oh, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. They're approved.
So the next item on the calendar are the actual items. You all received an electronic version of the calendar.
Please waive the reading of the calendar.
Thank you. Thank you. So we should have a vote on that, on the calendar, adopting the calendar.
Yep. Is there a motion to adopt the calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there a second? I just approved it, but okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Great.
Aye.
Oh,
Opposed?
Deborah, I thought we were approving.
Yeah, we already,
It was
that's
the
okay.
minutes that we were approving. We approved the minutes and then we approved the items on the calendar.
Right. Okay, so we just approved, any opposed? All right, so we approved the calendar. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So next on the agenda is other business, and we have a TRS presentation called the TRS Data Warehouse with Tableau. Michelle Marshall is going to be presenting, and Jan Turner is going to be assisting her. Michelle Marshall is our Deputy Director in our Member Services Unit Department. Michelle? Liz?
Should unmute.
Michelle is coming.
Okay, great.
Okay, here we are. Sorry, folks. Good afternoon, all. So today's presentation was originally scheduled for March 19th, same week that the city essentially shut down due to the pandemic. So, of course, I'm very happy that we're finally here together, albeit remotely. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was that person whose eyes glazed over whenever people started talking to me about data. So my goal here today is to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Let's start with the obvious first question. What is a data warehouse? Simply put, it's a system for storing, analyzing, and reporting on data. This data is drawn from multiple sources and collected together into a central repository for easy access by authorized users across an organization. So here's a look at the TRS data warehouse. On the left, you see our current in-house sources like Aspen and UPS, external sources such as AT&T and our call center software, Genesis, our member and partner portals, etc. Data from all these sources is collected and stored in our ever-growing data warehouse so that we can ultimately make smart, data-driven business decisions by means of reporting and visualization. Now, reporting emphasizes the data itself, like the number of people who retired this summer, or what percentage did so in the last week of August. But our focus today is on visualization, which brings the data to life graphically and interactively, so we can easily see and investigate any trends, outliers, and patterns in the data, all of which facilitate good decision-making.
Michelle?
Are you guys seeing really distorted slides?
Yes.
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 I can share my screen from here. I can take
Yeah.
it. I have it up.
Okay, Liz,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry about that, folks.
Oh, much better.
Oh, that's good.
Better.
Oh, now I can visualize this data.
Now you can see on the left side the different sources, and they're all collected into the central repository for the purposes of reporting, visualization, and decision making. So now how does this help us at TRS? Well, we're using a powerful data visualization tool called Tableau, and it allows us to quickly access and analyze data from one source or multiple channels as needed, see and interact with the data, which helps refine our questions so we can better understand the story behind the trends, outliers, and patterns that we see, and show you today 3 visualizations that helped us answer some questions we had in our member services department, including: where do the participants in our member education programs come from? What trends have we seen in face-to-face customer service and use of our member website? And how are we doing with TDA enrollment? So now here's a fun fact for you. Before the pandemic, our on-site member education programs drew almost twice as many participants from one particular zip code in Brooklyn than anywhere else in the city. Now that's just not something that leaps off the screen at you when you look at a traditional report like this. But let's go to a live demo of one of our interactive maps in Tableau. And give us a moment to pull that up. Okay, there we are. So now above the map, you can see the number of participants. I think that's the wrong map, Liz. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. So above the map, you can see the number of participants by borough from 2015 to 2019. And then the dots on the map represent the relative number of participants in each borough by zip code, with the largest cluster coming from one area in the southeast section of Brooklyn. So on the left, we zeroed in to take a closer look. And I couldn't help but wonder, what's going on over there in 11234? So we looked at the map in a slightly different way to find out. Okay, so in this view, the zip code borders have been added along with the number of participants. And so, mystery solved. So now we can clearly see that unlike most zip codes in our densely populated borders, 11234 is just much bigger than 1 or 2 neighborhoods. And it makes perfect sense that so many members from that area have attended our member education program. Now, as modernization continues and we're able to add service data to the data warehouse, I'm looking forward to revisiting these maps to see not just where our participants live, but where they work. Because if there are districts where program participation seems to be lagging, well, we can partner with schools there to increase awareness of how our member education programs will benefit their teachers. And of course, in the meantime, we're currently hosting our member education programs on Zoom. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we also compared visits to our walk-in center with self-service on our member website. And certainly the pandemic has changed this dynamic, but were we prepared for the change? Well, here's a different type of visualization that you're seeing now. One that clearly transforms data from two different sources, our member website, and also our standalone tool that captures our walk-in center visits into useful information. And so you'll see that the walk-in center visits are shown on the left on the yellow bar chart, and the measurements are on the left-hand side in the thousands. And then website visits, represented by the blue line, are measured in the millions on the right-hand side. Now, right away, you can see from the bar chart that walk-in center visits held steady at roughly 7,500 from 2015 to 2017, before dropping off by 1,000. But notice the line graph, which shows a healthy uptick in website visits from 1 million in 2016 to 1.5 in 2017, 1.8 in 2018, and then a dramatic increase to 2.6 in 2019, 2.6 million. Now you'll notice that the results are also summarized nicely below. So these trends show the success of our ongoing modernization program in increasing both the quality and quantity of our self-service options online, including electronic payments for loans and service purchase. And also kudos to our walk-in center staff for bringing our visitors to our kiosks and helping them to register for online account access and find needed information, file applications, also that they could help themselves in the future from the comfort of their own homes. And of course, that's come in very handy since the start of the pandemic. Now, TDA is something else that's been very, very handy for our members in the long run. But have we seen an upward trend in TDA enrollment as well? Well, here, let's just take a look at 1 year, 2003. And what you see is that just 4% of those who became TRS members in 2003 also enrolled in our TDA program that same year. But 16 years later, by the end of 2019, 61% of that 2003 cohort had joined the TDA ranks. Well, what about our other cohorts? We're very, very happy to report that more and more members are choosing TDA and doing so much sooner in their TRS membership, which means greater income security at retirement. So on the left, you can see that TDA enrollment in the first year of membership increased from 4% in 2003 to 25% in the last 5 years. And also this visualization shows that our TDA enrollment rate has accelerated rapidly. In fact, the cohorts that have enrolled, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I apologize, guys. But I do want to tell you a little bit more about TDA. So the cohorts that enrolled with us in the past 10 years have reached or exceeded 60% TDA enrollment in about half the time as that 2003 cohort, in about just 8 years or less instead of 16 years for that 2003 cohort. Now, really, I could have just told you that our TDA enrollment rate has increased dramatically in the last 2 decades. But would that have had the same impact as showing you the arc of enrollment for 17 cohorts on one acceleration graph? Well, just like our members benefit from attending our member education programs and using the new and improved self-service options on our website and enrolling in TDA sooner rather than later, well, we are benefiting from the TRS data warehouse and the use of visualization to transform our data into useful information. So let's exit Tableau now and take a look at those benefits again. There we go. So these benefits include easy access to a growing pool of data that we can express visually so that we can readily see and share the trends, outliers, and patterns of data that facilitate good decision-making. Also, the ability to pull data from multiple sources in an instant and layer them as needed to examine the correlations between processes and departments, and etc. And simplified data analysis, because once you find the right visualization for the type of data you're using, well, then a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I've talked to you today about just a few of the ways that we're using the data warehouse with Tableau in the Member Services Department. But as we continue to modernize the way we do business at TRS, our data warehouse will grow and help us ensure that across our whole organization, we're making timely decisions for the lasting benefit of our members and beneficiaries. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention. Are there any questions about the data warehouse or Tableau?
No, just Michelle, thank you so much for that presentation. It's obvious that our members are using the information, you're using the information that our members are providing by, going on the website and everything that they do. Thank you so much for keeping up with them, and for the Member Service Department, you work so hard. We appreciate everything you do for our members. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank Jan and Liz for switch hitting today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Michelle, Liz, and Jan. Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation from Grant Thornton, and I guess Sharon Campbell, you will be presenting?
Mhm.
Great.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Campbell. I am a managing director in Grant Thornton's Employee Benefit Plan Audit Practice, and I am the lead on the New York City retirement systems with the assistance of my team, some of which are on this virtual meeting. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you the results of the audit of the teachers' retirement system of the City of New York as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2020. As you know, this was our first year auditing TRS, and as you're also aware, 2020 was a very difficult year for a number of reasons, including, but certainly not limited to, adapting to a remote environment. Overall, the audit went well. There was a relatively smooth transition. We issued an unmodified, clean opinion dated October 28th. In the spirit of the holiday season, I want to take a moment to thank management for their assistance throughout the audit process. They were integral in the success of this. They got us up to speed. We really appreciated their depth and breadth of knowledge, agility, adaptability, and transparency that was demonstrated very consistently throughout the audit. I'm also extremely thankful for the coordinated efforts of New York City's Comptroller's Office, the Bureau of Asset Management, the Office of the Actuary, FISA OPA, and of course, our team, the Grant Thornton team, some of which is also on this call, including our subject matter experts. All of us as a coordinated effort, it was integral to the successful and timely completion of the audit. So with that, I'm going to share my screen for my presentation, which is, let's see. I'm going to open up my screen because it did not give me the option. Let me move that here, and I will share this screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Let me see if I can,
Yes.
okay. And let me close this and this. Apologies for that. Okay, so this presentation is our annual required presentation. Okay, this is our audit team, some of which again are on this call. And then we have our subject matter specialists. Again, some of them are on this call as well, including our investment specialists, our actuarial specialists, our IT specialists. Okay, we'll start with responsibilities. So we're responsible for performing an audit of TRS's combining financial statements that were prepared by management and conducted under US generally accepted auditing standards, forming and expressing opinions as to whether or not the basic combining financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with US GAAP, reading other information in the combining financial statements, such as management's discussion and analysis, and the required supplementary information, and assessing whether it's materially consistent with the basic combining financial statements, and then reporting identified at significant deficiencies and/or material weaknesses in internal control related to financial reporting. As a reminder, an audit provides reasonable but not absolute assurance that the combining financial statements are free of material misstatements due to error or fraud. It does not relieve those charged with governance or management of the respective responsibilities. And our responsibilities are further described in the agreement with the city, the citywide agreement that was executed on July 9th, 2020. Okay. From a high level, I'm going to go through the responsibilities of those charged with governance and then move on to management. So those charged with governance, among other things, are responsible for overseeing the financial reporting process, discussing significant accounting and internal control matters with management, informing us of matters that are relevant to our audit, such as objectives, strategies, and related business risks that may result in material misstatement, any matters that warrant particular audit attention, any significant communications that you're aware of with regulators, matters that are related to the effectiveness of internal control and as it relates to your oversight responsibilities, and your views regarding current communications and actions regarding previous communications. Also responsible for informing us of fraud or any suspected fraud, including your views of fraud risk. With that, I do want to take a moment. I like to take the opportunity to ask the question if there's any members who are aware of any fraud or suspected fraud. And I will assume that the silence means that no one's aware. So I'll move on to management's responsibilities. So management is responsible for preparing and fairly presenting the basic combining financial statements in accordance with US GAAP, including the MD&A and the required supplementary information, designing, implementing, evaluating, and maintaining effective internal control over financial reporting and over compliance with existing state statutes and city laws, communicating significant accounting and internal control matters to those charged with governance, providing us with unrestricted access to all persons and all information that would be relevant to our audit, informing us about fraud, illegal acts, significant deficiencies, and material weaknesses in internal controls. Based on the results of those inquiries, management was not aware or did not make us aware of any fraud or illegal acts or significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. Management's also responsible for adjusting the combining financial statements, including the disclosures, to correct any material misstatements. None were identified, and informing us of any significant subsequent events, as well as providing us with certain representations written in the form of the management representation letter, which we've included for your reference in section 4 of the PDF. Any questions so far? Okay. This is a high-level audit timeline that was provided to management. Actually, management's timeline was much larger in scope. There are a number of things that are more granular for management, but this just gives you an idea as to the timeline of when certain audit procedures were performed. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So we approach the audit by updating our understanding of the environment in which the TRS operates. We use that knowledge and understanding to perform a risk-based assessment of the financial reporting process. We determine a materiality threshold. We identify financial statement categories that are likely to be materially misstated, whether due to fraud or error, and we design our procedures and focus our audit attention on areas of greater risk. So materiality is the magnitude of an omission or misstatement that would likely influence a reasonable person's judgment, and this materiality can be both qualitative and quantitative. We base our materiality on a benchmark for TRS's plan. This is based off of total net position restricted for benefits. Financial statement line items that are greater than materiality are considered in scope. However, there could be areas, and there are areas that may be below materiality threshold that may be in scope if qualitative factors are present. Examples would be related party transactions or any fraud risk that's identified, or any other scope in items that are significantly related to non-material items. So as mentioned before, we approach our audit with using a risk-based approach, and we first identifying significant risks. So this slide communicates the significant risks that were identified for this audit. A pervasive risk for all audits is management override of internal controls over financial reporting. We test that predominantly through journal entry testing. We did not identify any matters as it relates to management override based on our procedures performed. Another area of significant risk is investment fair value, specifically for those investments where more judgment is involved, such as in the alternative investments. And based on our audit procedures, we identified no exceptions there. Okay, so the other areas of focus that we spend some time on, again, we spend time on investments, investment income, so we confirm investment positions. We evaluate the reasonableness of the fair value disclosures. On a sample basis, we test the investments held at year end, as well as purchases and sales throughout the year to determine the reasonableness of the reported fair values. We test the reasonableness of investment related income, including net appreciation in fair values. And then we also evaluate the reasonableness of investment expenses. We did not identify any exceptions. For member loans, we test the completeness of the population of member loans. And then on a sample basis, we test at the participant level, the eligibility for the loan, that the loan exists at the period end and is appropriately reported, and that it's consistent with the summary plan description or loan provisions, including the amount of the loan.
Lori, Daddy's gonna send up 2 cans of tomatoes. Oh, sorry.
And no worries. The duration of the loan and interest rates, no exceptions were noted with member loans. Another area of focus is member contributions. Again, we test the completeness of the population of the member contributions. We select a sample of members who contributed. We test the eligibility to contribute and whether the amounts were contributed and appropriately calculated in accordance with plan provisions. For benefit payments, we test the completeness of the population of benefit payments, and then on a sample basis, we select benefit payments that were made during the year to determine that the member was eligible for the type of benefit requested, that the benefit was appropriately authorized, and that it was calculated appropriately based on plan provisions. And then for net pension liability, we test the completeness and accuracy of the census data. We assess the reasonableness of the assumptions that are used, the actuarial assumptions, inputs, methods used in the calculation of the net pension liability. And that includes evaluating the reasonableness of the expected rate of return, the discount rate, mortality. And then on a sample basis, we test census data information, testing the completeness and accuracy of certain selected demographic data that's driving the net pension liability. There were no exceptions noted there. So I'm not going to go into detail on the IT general controls, also ITGCs. We did not place any control reliance over ITGCs this year. Basically, we performed certain procedures to gain an understanding of the ITGCs to allow us to design control procedures in the future. From a high level, the areas of focus for ITGCs included security administration, which is related to security access, access rights, access monitoring procedures, and access change controls. We looked at program maintenance, testing for change management policies and processes for in-scope applications. It says CIT observations and recommendations, which we included, but I do want to point out that there were no, the observations and recommendations individually in the aggregate did not rise to a level of significant or material, and we can talk about that later. Other areas included program execution, specifically batch processing, job scheduling, system access and scheduling tools, as well as technology operations, which were including, but not limited to, physical access to the data center, disaster recovery, backups, data redundancy, and help desk functions. Okay, and then another area of focus under ITGCs is cybersecurity. So we reviewed the design of the information security specific controls, both preventative and detective in nature, in place over the items listed on this slide. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on. So we employed certain specialists within our firm. So our compensation benefits consulting practice, which includes our actuaries, did assist us in reviewing the reasonableness of the actuarial assumptions and methods used by the New York City Office of the Actuary to determine the system's net pension liability. We use our New York pricing group for investment valuation, and then we used our corporate value consulting group to test certain small portion of commingled investments in funds and debt securities. We also had a subcontractor, Galeros Robinson, who assisted us in audit procedures. Okay, we talked a little bit about COVID and working in the remote environment. Management, again, was integral in assisting us with gaining remote access, which helped us complete our audit procedures. Typically in benefit plan audits, there's a lot of work surrounding demographic data. We were able to gain access to the systems, the applications that contain that data. Our responsibilities also require us to communicate any misstatements. We didn't identify any, so there are no slides. And then we'll move on to the remaining required communications, quality of the accounting practices, and internal control matters. Okay, so these are our required communications. We're not aware of any going concern or longevity matters. We're not aware of any fraud, non-compliance with laws or regulations. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting that were identified. We're not aware of the use of any other auditors as it relates to the TRS plan audit. We did not use internal audit. The related party and related party transactions are disclosed appropriately in the financial statements. There were no significant unusual transactions that merit your attention. We're pleased to report that there were no disagreements with management. We're not aware of management's consultation with other accountants as it relates to the audit. There were no significant issues that were discussed with management, no significant difficulties encountered during the audit. And there were no other significant findings or issues that would be relevant to you or your oversight responsibilities. There were no modifications to the auditor's report. Again, it was an unmodified, clean opinion. And the other information and documents that contain the combining financial statements or responsibility is to review that information to ensure that there's no material inconsistencies between the audited financial statements and the information in those in the other information. That information would include management's discussion and analysis and any supplemental schedules that are not audited. And it will also include, which will be filed in December, the CAFR. Okay, so we're also required to communicate the quality of accounting practices. So significant accounting policies are detailed in the combining financial statements. The accounting policies were deemed to be appropriate and applied consistently. We noted no transactions that were entered into that were significant or unusual, or any transactions for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. The required disclosure of estimation uncertainty is included in the notes to the financial statements. And the most significant estimates include the fair value of the investments and the net pension liability. The financial statements were deemed, the disclosures were deemed to be clear and complete in all material respects, and there were no other matters noted. Okay, so this is just internal control matters. Just as a reminder, we're responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So our audit included consideration of internal control over financial reporting as a basis for designing our audit procedures, but we do not express an opinion on the internal controls or the effectiveness of internal controls. Any control deficiencies that did not rise to the level of significant deficiency or material weakness were communicated to management. Again, we did not identify any control deficiencies that rose to a level of significant deficiency or material weakness. So this slide just demonstrates, it just communicates the different types of control deficiencies. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So that concludes the presentation. I will share with you, included in here, so we do have a commitment to promote ethical and professional excellence. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free. And then one other thing I do want to communicate is our internal control letter. Again, basically indicating that, you know, that our responsibility as it relates to internal control. And the piece here is that material weaknesses, we did not identify any. However, you know, given the limitations as far as the fact that our audit procedures are not designed to identify deficiencies in internal control that could individually or in combination result in a material weakness, there is a possibility material weaknesses may exist that were not identified, but we did not identify any. Okay, and then we've included for your reference observations and recommendations as it relates to information technology. And that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Want to go into depth in detail and anything that's included in the presentation?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation.
Absolutely. And thank you for having us. We really appreciated the opportunity, and I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
as well.
Thank you.
Patricia, you're on mute.
Patricia? You're on mute. Oh,
I
there we
was
go.
not on mute when I was talking about my spaghetti and meatballs. Now I am. All
Now
right.
you made us all hungry, though.
Questions and comments from the public is next on the agenda. Seeing none. Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Kazansky, ready to go?
Yeah, so before we go, on behalf of the trustees and the members of the UF team, we want to thank TRS. As Thanksgiving is coming around, it's only appropriate to thank you all for the hard work you've done in these unusually difficult circumstances. And we just want to wish you and your families a safe, happy Thanksgiving, and stay away from each other.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank
I'd
you,
like to know-
trustees.
Oh, absolutely. There's no executive agenda today. And so with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
No, well, that'd be the time.
Thank you, Mr. Adler. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank
Happy
you so much.
Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Happy
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Stay
Safe.
safe.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.